April 20th, 2021. Just this past week, I was on a spiritual retreat at a nice secluded place overlooking Lake Michigan when I got a text message that said the Chauvin verdict is about to be released at 4:30 p.m. I looked down at my phone and my heart started to beat and to flutter. The place of quiet and rest that I was attempting to capture was instantly taken away. I didn't even reply to the text message because I wasn't sure what I was going to do or what I was going to say or how I was going to engage. It was like waiting in the doctor's office to hear the doctor come in to tell you the report about what's going on with your body. I was holding my breath, and I did decide to go ahead and listen to the verdict read out loud. On 3 counts of murder, Officer Chauvin was found guilty in each one. My first thought was, man, I hope and pray comfort for the family of George Floyd, that they would know that this is one step closer to them gaining some peace in their life. Because for more than about a year, they've been wrestling without peace. My second thought was that I wanted to be with my family. I wanted to be with my wife and my kids. I wanted to be with my mother and my mother-in-law, my father-in-law. I wanted to be with my family, to hold them and to tell them that I love them. And then as I began to reflect on what this verdict meant, it was something that I want to share with all of you. First, what the verdict means is that it affirms the imago Dei of George Floyd. That George was made in the image of God, and the violent way in which he left this earth was not the will of God. It affirmed the imago Dei of George Floyd. Secondly, the verdict held Officer Chauvin accountable for his actions. And it was a reminder, perhaps, to all police officers that you'll be held accountable for your actions. But as I saw people start to, tweet out that justice was served today, I had to pause just for a minute to say, no, justice was not served today. George Floyd's life was needlessly taken, and justice, in a biblical sense, is restorative. It is to right a wrong, and there's no right to taking a life that will equal its wrong being overturned. No, justice would be that George Floyd was alive today to defend himself in front of a court of law for any accusations that are being brought against him. But he's not. What we have is that this verdict affirmed the life of George Floyd and that it held Officer Chauvin accountable for his actions. My brother-in-law and I were texting back and forth, and he sent me a quote. The work of justice never sleeps, Rich. And that is so true. It would be foolish of us to think that this verdict somehow means that there's no more work to be done. It would be foolish of us to think that now that this verdict, which millions of people around the world felt in their soul in the moments after or as it was even happening, now can say justice is done. No, justice never sleeps. There's more work to be done. And listen, Officer Chauvin is a poor example of a police officer. And I'm certain that there are many more officers who don't represent that poor decision making, that bad behavior, his way in which he went about not just this instance, but other instances as well. But my concern is not about individual police officers. My concern is about a system that allows it to happen, and in some cases, if not many cases, requires an excessive use of deadly force. My concern is about the system. Doing justice, brothers and sisters, equals changing systems. It equals changing policies and changing procedures that benefit all people and not are skewed one way or the other against or for certain groups of people. Doing justice equals asking critical questions of politicians, of civic leaders, and of police officers, and demanding transparency as well as demanding change. And brothers and sisters, doing justice equals preparing for a long road of transformation. I tweeted out after the verdict that we needed to prepare ourselves for more instances. I was able to catch my breath, right as the verdict was being read, and I wasn't even in a place where I could fully emote myself because there were other people on this retreat with me, and it just wasn't the space. And lo and behold, much to my heaviness, within minutes of the verdict being read, an African-American girl, Ma'Khia Bryant, age 16, was shot and killed by a Columbus police officer. Now, I know there's still details that are coming out, and there's still video that is being revealed about the whole situation as it was unfolding, and our own mayor has gone from one side to the other in terms of how he's interpreting that information. But let's pause for a second. Let's pause for a second and ask critical questions. Let's pause for a second and say that it's not just an individual police officer that we are concerned about. It is a system that allows, and in some cases, demands an excessive use of deadly force before an assessment is fully made. And let's prepare ourselves for the long road of transformation. Let's, as a people, pray for the family of Ma'Khia Bryant, the community of Ma'Khia Bryant. Let's lament over the fact that this happened within minutes of hearing the verdict. Let's lament that it happened at all. Let's lament that we have a system that allows it to happen, and that we wouldn't dream of something different and better, not just for Ma'Khia, but also for our police officers. And let's act. I know that there are lots of ways in which we could and we can talk about, but for now, my hope for our church and for the church in Columbus is that we would pray, lament, and we would act. This is what it means to do justice. That the work of justice never sleeps. It continues on. And as long as we're on this side of heaven, brothers and sisters, there will always be work to do. My prayers are with you. More to come. In Jesus' name.